Sairam. I was a schoolboy. My father was in the military Air Force, posted in Bangalore, and my mother used to like to go into Whitefield. We'd accompany her for all these. Every time she went there. One day, Swami called me. I had no idea. In fact, I addressed Swami as Sir. I tried to shake hands, and Swami took me inside with many others alone. And it was a wonderful experience, a very moving experience, an experience which touches your soul, and you're never the same again. It was wonderful being in his presence, and he told me everything about my life. He told me the books I was reading, the friends I had, the 2 books I had hidden under my bed, what I was planning to do, join the army. And I was in a military school. We got a lot of meat to eat, and over the interviews, Swami guided me. And one of the things he told me was not to eat, to become a vegetarian. I did that gradually, and he told me not to join the army, and to not join the fighting army, and so on. He would guide our lives without even asking him. Similar things he told my brother. And what I wish to share with you was, over a period of time, he told us the reasons, which I think which something you all should know and maybe share with your near and dear ones. They're amazing. Science hasn't understood these concepts because it operates at a physical level, a physical gross level, and it doesn't understand sublime things. So let's begin at random with some of the things Swami told us. The students would say that they find problems a lot to study. They are not able to retain. As that means they have problems with their memory. And you know what Swami said? You will be surprised. There are certain energies related to each other inversely in the body. Science hasn't understood this. For example, you'll be surprised. Memory is related to, that's a Sanskrit word. It's called vak. That's your speech. The lesser we speak, the sharper is our memory. In fact, as we get older, in fact, Swami says silence is the speech of the spiritual seeker. As we get older, we must reduce our speech. The lesser we speak, the more powerful our memory is. The more we speak verbose, especially irrelevantly, one's memory reduces. If you cross a certain line, our nerves become weak. You may have noticed very talkative people are a little unstable. And then he said, if you cross a certain line further, aging is accelerated. It's one of the causes of accelerated aging which plagues the modern man. Swami further elaborated. He says, words carry a spiritual power, a Shabd Brahma, use that word. A certain energy accompanies words, which is cosmic, which is divine. Haven't been upset by something said to you or felt energized said to you. I mean, a battle is won or lost by sometimes just one word by the, battle cry by the leader. The lesser we speak, the more powerful our words become. The more we speak, the lesser is Sabda Brahma, the lesser is the spiritual power in words. And Swami also said, the others may not know, but somehow if you practice what you're speaking on, I'm working on that myself. I try my best not to speak about what I'm not doing or practicing. Swami said, if you are practicing what you speak, your words become very powerful, and they inspire, they ignite, they touch, move, and inspire those who are in your orbit. I'm just saying this. We had a big shot who robbed the holy cattle of their fodder. He once addressed the railway officers, please look after the nation and look after the railways. You think anybody was inspired or moved? Because he wasn't practicing what he spoke. So such is the power of words, that it fades memory and accelerates aging. Then Swami spoke surprisingly about longevity and lifespan. There are many variables. We're going to speak about a few relating to us. Why certain lifespans are longer, certain lifespans are shorter. There are many reasons. After all, even God, eventually God's decide. But Swami said it's related to your breathing. He said, surprisingly, science hasn't understood this. He says, nature is a university, a Mahavidyalaya, a goddess. It's just that we don't observe nature intuitively with intuitive wisdom. We just look, we don't see. We hear, but we don't listen. So nature is telling you something all the time patiently. She's a divine mother, but we don't listen. A university. Who in nature has a long lifespan? Turtles, crocodiles, pythons. Why? A turtle breathes once in 3 minutes. He lives 100, 200, 300 years. He breathes once in 3 minutes. And when your breathing is less, your heart rate is related to that. Heart rates also slow down. Then who dies quickly? Dogs, cats, rabbits, because they breathe rapidly. Who dies in 3 days? 4 days, monsoon insects, they breathe 300 times a minute. So Swami said, man is unique. He's got a status between divinity and animality. Unfortunately, bulk of man is closer to the lower level, but he's somewhere in between. So he's got certain special privileges of an intelligence and so on. So Buddhism has a concept that we are born with so many breaths. It's up to us how we breathe. So it's take it or leave it. The Ayurveda is from the Ayurveda, which is again the science from the gods of a healthy longevity. So it's take it or leave it. They're not interested in proving anything. For example, modern science has no chapter on lifespan. Only the Indian sciences have, and the others offshoots of the Indian science like the Chinese. Anger is a shortener of life because anger stimulates your breathing and your heart rates. Envy, jealousy, discontent are shorteners of life, very severe shorteners of life. Even fear is a negative emotion. Unbalanced fear is an insult to divinity. Can anything happen to us which he hasn't willed? So unbalanced fear, modern man lives in perpetual fear. All these accelerate the process of breathing and shorten lifespan. If you breathe as per the art of living, where you breathe in slowly, as Swami said, hold your breath for some fraction, then breathe out slowly, and it becomes, yogis automatically breathe like that all the time. They cannot breathe more than 5-6 times a minute. Lifespan shoot up. Lifespan shoot up because your wear and tear reduces, your diseases reduce, automatically longevity rises. So breathing is one of the factors which governs lifespan. There are other many, it's a chapter in itself, but he also said, Swami told me that personally, he said you should be straight. And like me, he said, like I'm straight. I mean, some people are broad built, it's okay. But obesity is a shortener of life. You put on too much weight. In fact, it's anti-spiritual. I'll be frank, we've all passed through phases of it. That's okay. We must come out of it. Obesity means our food intake is much more than our requirement. I'm sick. It's not okay. So obesity is a shortener of life. To be slim, your wear and tear. So you must reduce your caloric intake. And let me tell you, it's all a big multinational pharmaceutical money game. Alzheimer's, the pure disciplined Brahmins, the tribals, they don't get Alzheimer's and dementia because they eat disciplined, they are slim and wiry, they eat as per seasons, they don't overeat, they live closer to nature. Dementia is an outcome of modern living, and one of the causes of dementia is obesity, excess eating, excess calorie eating, both in quantity and quality, including meat eating. We'll come to that. Then Swami mentioned about, I did MD General Medicine in Armed Forces Medical College, Pune University in 1984. I worked in cardiology, cancers. Cancers are not very difficult to pick up. So we pick up a lot of cancers and we send them to, treatment is difficult. There's an epidemic of cancers. In fact, in college, Swami told us that this decade will have lots of cancers, lots of illness. There'll be a lot of cancers, and we're picking them up all over the place. 20% of America, imagine, from 5, it's gone up to 20. It's coming to 25, dies painfully of cancers. God is not unjust or unfair. So yeah. And then leukemias, the blood cancer in children especially, the world's highest incidence is in Scandinavia. That's Sweden, Norway, Denmark. You say Nordic countries, then you include Iceland and Finland also. So there are good people everywhere. There was a lot of foreigners come to Swami and ask these kind of questions, which an average Indian devotee doesn't ask. Like foreigners will ask Swami, well, what's black magic? What are ghosts? What are where you ask, how do you materialize something? Things like that, or point blank. So some Westerners came and asked Swami this question about rising leukemias. In fact, in one of the discourses, Swami specified it to the entire Purna Chandra auditorium. He told us that there are many carcinogens. He specifically spoke of white sugar. Please get this right. White sugar is a poison. It happened in the British Raj, the queen with all her snooty habits. She didn't like jaggery on her table. She felt it was unsophisticated, something of the natives, and it's somebody. So some guy boiled it in soda ash and all sorts of things and researched it and made it white. This madness for this kind of a thing. So sugar, let me tell you, is made by boiling jaggery, processing jaggery in the bones of dead animals. Very few people know it. Nobody will publish this for you. It's all a mafia. Maneka Gandhi tried her best to get this in magazine. Nobody wanted to take on Sharad Pawar. Every magazine is politically connected. So Swami said, yes, the rise of leukemias and the recent rise of cancer is because of white sugar intake. The real sugar is jaggery. Jaggery also gives, it was there in India till for thousands of years. It was during the British time they wanted to make money in Fiji. They had their sugar factories and they wanted to, so it has addictive properties also. So they used to give free sugar to a lot of people. They got used to it. And today, jaggery industry of India is in a mess. So white sugar is one of the poisons. It's also got mild addictive qualities. That's one of the reasons the confectionery industry knows that. That's why they spike every single thing with white sugar. Even chips, even salt biscuits have white sugar because they want the kids to get hung up on it and they demand it. You see these behavioral disorders in children, all sorts of fancy names are there. One of the causes is excess meat, especially in excess, and white sugar. Earlier, a child would sit quietly, do puja or something like that, have his mundan done, and today he can't sit quiet. He's all the time rattling. It's because he's being kicked. His nerves are perpetually kicked with white sugar. He's on a high, then he has a low, so his mother can't handle him. She gives him another 5-star. So get this right. Swami said very clearly that white sugar is a poison. It needs to be replaced with jaggery, and we must bring our traditional, cultural traditional industries back, revive them. We've virtually stopped white sugar. Not fanatically, you have tea outside, that's okay, but we don't, we use jaggery. So please, and also a child earlier had a kilo of sugar or even jaggery in 6 months. Today he eats it in 6 days, 3 days. One small tetra pack of appy or fruity has 30 grams of sugar. One bottle of fruity, 750 ml has 150 grams of sugar. You don't have to be a PhD to figure out. A grandmother will tell you this, that it's poison. So another thing Swami told us and emphasized to us was that white sugar is a poison. We must do away with it and replace it with our traditional jaggery. Well, Swami told me, definitely, I regret it. I've done my share of meat eating, but I stopped. Luckily, my wife's a natural vegetarian. So at the age of 26, I stopped. I'm really glad I stopped eating meat. And Swami told us various aspects of meat eating at different times. And I'll start with the most mind-boggling one, which I don't know if anyone of you have ever heard of this. I hadn't heard of it till the age of 35 or something when Swami told us. And I read this in one of the discourses in Summer Showers and Blue Mountains. Just a couple of lines are written on it. People, why is the world population going up? It has to go up. You do what you want. You cannot beat cosmic laws. You know why? Why are people why there's so much violence and chaotic state of affairs? One of the reasons is meat eating. All of us have contributed. The law of cause and effect, deed and destiny, seed and fruit, generally referred to as the law of karma, is a law which works with exactitude, though a little slowly. They say God is slow to anger. It works in space and time and orchestrates events based on the inputs over a period of time. You'll be surprised to know what Swami said. Every animal eaten by man, including eggs, is compensated by the law of karma, because you shot him, cut him into pieces, he's helpless, so it compensates him. That's why honest people have a tough time in the beginning, but the cosmic laws compensate them. In the long run, they have the last laugh. Believe me, crooks are sorted out. On the long run, they are the ones who come to grief. Anyway, every animal killed by modern man or man is reborn a human being. He jumps the cycle of animal life and death and is reborn a human being. But he's a human being in form. Swami said that he's a human being in form, but his traits remain as the last time he was a human being. And Swami gave examples. Why are people so, let's say, culturally or spiritually stupid? They were sheep and goats. They were piggies, swine. We ate them. Now they are neighbors, near and dear ones, our husbands, wives, and so on. Then he said, why are people so vicious, so forked in their tongue and so vicious? He said, they were snakes. You ate them. Then Swami gave another example. He says, why people steal, pick up things, steal. He says, there were cats. They enter houses, pick up things. He says, you ate them. Now they are fixing you. Tribals have more intuitive intelligence than the modern man. I remember once we were having a military exercise in the Rajasthan border, and we asked one of the elders and the village chiefs, we asked him, how come we don't see so much of nilgai and black buck and peacocks? You know what he said? He says, हाँ साहब जी वो सब मार के लोगों ने खा लिए हैं, वो सब अब इंसान पैदा हो गए हैं, इसलिए इंसान आजकल सब जानवर की तरह नजर आता है और जानवर की तरह होता है और जानवर कम हो गए हैं. Said that. No scientific great scientist would ever understand this. So this is one of the things Swami said. Till then, he also explained, God understands. Swami gave an example. He says an aborigine has nothing there. He's in a riverine culture. He's in the forest. He kills animals. He says that's not a bad karma. Nature can cater to that. It's this lustful eating of meat which modern man has started, slaughtering animals. And he says that has upset this balance of evolution. When the great destruction occurs, a lot of people go back to whatever forms they were and work their way up. The best human beings are those who've been humans all their in succeeding past lives, and they're working to evolve and improve themselves. So that's about the population in explosion. Then violent death. Again, it's very harsh what I'm telling you, because you see read the papers, everyone's, death is a final witness. Where the Christ, the Son of God, very succulently summed it up in one line, the great law of cause and effect, says those who live by the sword die by the sword. As meat eating rises, as slaughtering of animal rises, violent death rises. 30 million died in World War I, 40 million died in World War II, and millions have died in all the lesser wars all over the place. He says, why can it happen without his will? He's merciful, he's Rahim, yet he's allowing it to happen. Then Swami explained that this cosmos is automatically regulated. Swami said that, use this word. He said it's like your car. You just turn on something and everything starts off. So a certain threshold is reached, then automatically an effect takes place. So Buddhism has a concept, I don't know exactly, but certain number of, let's say, animals are equal to a human being. Let's say chicken arbitrarily. When that equivalent is reached, I go like a chicken. I may be 4 years old then. My parents say, oh, what an innocent boy, his neck got chopped off. It's not like that. Death is a witness to life, a very harsh witness to life. Why people dying like animals? Because they've lived like animals. So as meat eating rises, violent death rises, disease deaths rise. You'd show me a Jain or a genuine Brahmin who's blown up, shot dead, cut to pieces, stabbed, crushed. They don't even die. They pass away peacefully because they deserve that. So, it's very harsh, but this is what he told us. Next, it's one of the reasons poor people don't get grain to eat. Meat eaters makes you thumbsick and rajsick and then thumbsick also. So our intellect gets a little dull, animal-like. So we give a damn. Modern man gives a damn for any, he's pretty insensitive. So he couldn't care less. But meat eating is one of the reasons poor people don't get food to eat. They don't get grain to eat. Do you know half of India's peanuts, which could feed our poor people, are imported by Europe? They feed cattle, horses, pigs with that peanuts. They go to other countries, they buy their grain, they buy their vegetables, feed it to their animals, chop them up. And poor people don't get grain. 15 to 20 kilos, it's been worked out. It may go up to 30 kilos of grain makes 1 kilo of meat on the table. It's a very inferior way of feeding human beings. It's a very inferior way of feeding and a very unfair way of. And who eats that meat? Some 200 kilo morbid obese Westerner, he eats that meat. He doesn't need it. It's like a lust. God knows so it's one of the reasons poor people don't get food to eat. Then landslides. We have landslides. We have, floods and all. Meat eating's got a hand in it. Let's say arbitrarily, you take a photograph over Bangalore or Delhi 100 years back. It was all green around. Millions of animals are killed every single day, heartlessly. You think we're not sharing that? Okay, it was all green. But today, cattle abroad, horses, pigs. In India, sheep and goats, they're grown like vegetables. We eat them. So he grows them. They've eaten all the grass up. Greenery holds the earth. When I was a kid, after rains, the water was white, beautiful water. Today, it's all muddy. It has to be muddy because there's no greenery left. The animals have eaten enough. 15, 20 to 30 kilos of grass makes 1 kilo of mutton on the table. That's it. It's one of the reasons why when landslides occur, we look around. Who to blame? Actually, man doesn't realize it's his own doing. And also, if a meat eater has blood on his hands, get it right. So there is a power of prayers. Today, it's written in the Quran, the Holy Quran, that there are people it was a prophecy that there'll be people praying all the time. Their prayers will not rise above the head. One of the reasons for that is when we have blood on our hands. A meat eater has blood on his hands. He takes life, one day his life is taken. He sheds blood, one day his blood is shed. He causes pain, one day he has to die painfully. He has to share that pain. In fact, Swami was told by a foreigner, then a butcher must have had it. He's had it over endless life. Swami said, no, not the butcher. It's the people who make him do it and lustfully eat that meat. So they are the ones who face that, and over a period of time, it kind of catches up. Also, if it reduces, like if you conduct some prayers, and your priest is a meat eater, which is most of the time the priest is a meat eater, and the power of that prayers is reduced. The power of that prayer. Today, a lot of priests are meat eaters. A lot of us are meat eaters. We're praying all the time, but it doesn't seem to make much difference to this world. It reduces one's spiritual evolution. It reduces our spiritual evolution. If you want to cross a certain higher level of spiritual understanding and evolution, you can't have blood on your hands. You've got to be a vegetarian. You won't cross a certain level. And so once Swami was asked this question, how many lives will it take? How many bodies will it take? Swami says, God is very merciful, yet he's a hard taskmaster. Till we pass our exams and evolve, you keep coming into this cycle of birth and death. A life no different from the quadrupeds. He said that as long as you learn lessons, you don't clear your lessons. And he said, many of us have spent he didn't even name the number. He said, we've spent countless lives in this rat race, living no different from quadrupeds. And he said that it's time. Then he says, when you don't learn, then he in his mercy comes down to, guide people up. In fact, Annie Besant and Sister Nivedita and George Bernard Shaw, even Einstein, he was a Jew, but an evolved Jew. He was Vedic in his studies. You know what they said? Because Westerner didn't understand and we ape them, we just think the same way. He said, wars are a karmic consequence of meat eating. World War I, 30 million killed. World War II, 40 million killed. Another slaughter is due. By the end of this decade, there's going to be another depopulation. Again, a very well-deserved one. It's going to happen. And garlic and onions is not rigid. The people who want to evolve very high spiritually, they are generally advised to refrain from it. They have a certain stimulant effect. So there are certain things which are okay for the common man. Swami did not take all this. But there are instances of very evolved souls, who have offered some kind of food. Like the saint of Shirdi has accepted from a tribal whose only food was meat. He knew nothing else, but he was a very evolved soul. He has accepted something like that. There are exceptions, wheels within wheels. But generally, Swami's food was sattvic always, and a caloric quantity which cannot sustain life. Then Swami told us, he told me about, Swami performed our marriage for some reason. He materialized a golden thali which my wife wears. He put it around her neck and told me to put that. Hey, he told her for some reason that you'll have 2 kids. The first will be a boy, then a girl. So we were ready. And then he said certain things will happen, complications, but everything will be okay. She nearly died, but we were told. And he told me about my future postings, my post-graduation, what I was planning to do. On his own, he told me that I thought I'll take the lab, relax. And, I frankly topped the university, so I had a choice. So I wanted to take the lab and relax. So on his own told me that, he says, you deal with patients. He says, general medicine is very tough. He told me and I applied for it, I got it. So like that, Swami guided us many a time. It's very moving. Once in the Andaman Islands, we had just got married. Okay, Swami did our marriage and we got posted to the Andaman Islands. Then he told me your next posting will be Goa. It's important to know luggage and various other things. I fell sick with the serious kind of malaria, the malaria affects your brain, and I recovered and could have died. So we had the photos there. There was a photo. My wife was new to all this. I was a little upset and moved. So in my wife's presence, I spoke to that photograph. I said, Swami, I'm fed up here. I want to come. I didn't have the money. Those days, you didn't have money. Or my pay bank was in Port Blair. I was in the Nicobar Islands. How do I go? It's not so. Life was not so easy. So, I mean, life was happier, but no, not so easy the way it is. So I told Swami, I said, Swami, I don't have money. I want to come and I want leave. I'm not getting my leave. Leave's over. Marriage, I got used up. End of the year, I don't have any leave. I want to come and see you. I want to see my parents. She wants to meet her parents in Delhi. I said, I spoke all these things one by one. I said, I don't even have the money for the airfare to Bangalore. I got sent on something special called sick leave because I was pretty sick, where the government pays for everything. And anyway, then Swami called us for an interview, my wife and me. And it was very moving. We were moved to tears. My wife's first experience, Swami said, why are you unhappy? Everything's happened. She said, what? What's happened? We just looked at Swami. He says, then he told my wife, he says, didn't he say, speak to the photo in front? Swami said, yes. And what did he say? Then Swami narrated each one of the things which we had asked for. And all of them had happened. We were now on our way to Delhi. So, it's a very moving experience, and it really shakes your soul, moves your soul, and you're never the same again. And it's very profound, which he says, once you form a link with me, it goes over many lives. Something he emphasized, which is very harsh, but I share it with you because it needs maturity to be told this, to hear this. When I heard it, so he once said, he said, this whole world is a leela. It has been created with some rules. He gave an example of a football game. He said, if you have a football with no offhand, no handed, so he said that, or no this, no that, or no offside, will it be a game worth watching or a game worth playing? What makes it great? It's because it has discipline. So similarly, the world has been created like that. It's created for disciplined living. This is not arbitrary. He says everything has a consequence or compensation. And then he said, he says even grace, it happens, is because of deserving. So he said, if you want to call yourself a devotee, he says, understand this, that I have nothing to do with your joys and sorrows. You are the architect of your own fortune and misfortune. It's very harsh because every extended family today has enough problems. But he said, the God of karma also appreciates that, and that reduces your sentence, because he's not a wicked God. He wants to learn lessons. So if we've learned our lessons early, well in time, then the sentence reduces. We don't realize it. The sentence automatically reduces. Today, what's the problem? You see everybody blaming somebody or the other for his misfortune. They were just the space and time events or messengers who worked for the law of karma. Believe me, it's very harsh. We get the garbage we deserve. We get the pollution we deserve. We get the roads we deserve. We get the leaders we deserve. Believe me, if we're improving, we deserve to be ruled by somebody from outside. We've improved. That's why that little brat is not the prime minister. We are improving. That's why this has happened. Believe me, it's all cause and effect. Ultimately, it's very harsh, but we get what we deserve, not what we desire. But it happens very slowly, and it needs a certain threshold. And if you're wronged, you don't have to waste time on revenge. So that's why every religion says, try to forgive or whatever, and step back. Okay, you need not associate with the snake, but forget it. We bit you, forget it after that. Don't hate them. It says at some stage you will be compensated. And the later the compensation, the greater it is. Crooks keep getting away, political connections, they keep getting away. Later the punishments, the more severe they are. So as per this cosmic law is concerned, it's better to get punished early. In fact, Swami said once you should not beg for too much forgiveness. You've done something, you must willingly say, okay, I accept whatever sentence you give me, or something like that. He says, don't evade this, and ultimately everything will catch up. He said that very clearly. It's very harsh, but he said, we are the architect of our fortunes and misfortunes. And the same law is applicable to individuals, families, countries, cultures, religions, and even civilizations. Get this right. So then Swami told us certain things about the future. He told us about our own lives and all that. Like he told my younger brother, he's from the fighting army, he's from the armored tank corps. He materialized some things for us, and he materialized the Shirdi Sai Baba ring for my younger brother. But he told him, he said, no, you like the Shirdi forms, so this is for you. Something like that. It's very moving. All that. In fact, Swami once held my hand, left hand, ring finger, and said, I'll give you a ring. One day, and I forgot about it. Decades later, once in an interview, Swami held my finger and put a ring there. These kind of things happen. So he said some things about India. Let's get this right. And it's not that we look down on them. He says, if you are born in this country, in this sacred country, this great land, he says you evolved in your past lives. You may be even a criminal now, but still you're evolved in your past life. And whatever your community, religion, because everybody is from the same stock. The word Hinduism was brought about by the British actually, for divide and rule, who to destroy, who to convert, and all that. But actually, there's no such word. It's the Sanatan Dharma. It's the clay from which all the pots and pans come. So he said that if you are born in India, and especially in an evolved family of Hinduism, you evolved a great deal in your past lives. And another thing Swami emphasized was, it's very elementary, but we never thought about it. He says, whatever you did some Omkar just now, whatever. You learn some music, you learn bhajan singing or something. All this accompanies you in a pen drive. I'm using that word, or a hard disk. It accompanies you in your causal body, and you get born in those kind of circumstances and families. It's not accidental. Science hasn't understood this at all, and we are scientific. I'm just saying, a Taliban killer can never be born in an evolved, cultured family in Puttaparthi. A Puttaparthi soul leaving the body can never be born in a Taliban killer's family. These are not accidental. So you work your way up and get those circumstances which help your growth. He said that clearly. He says that, but the fact that you're in India, you have a great responsibility. And he said another thing very clearly. We all have relatives abroad, so do I. But I had an opportunity to migrate abroad. I chose not to. I went to Nepal for the first time in my life when I was 59 years old, 57 years old. Those chaps, the US Army invited us. Couldn't believe it. I went to the US 3 years back with my sister-in-laws there. I'm not interested in going abroad, not one bit. Swami said that we should not leave this sacred land and this sacred religion. If we do that, especially for greed, then but you're free to do it, because it's a leela. You have freedom up till a certain limit. You can't, like Hitler, say, I want to destroy the Jews or destroy that religion. It don't work. But up to a certain limit, he said, it emphasizes that we should not leave this sacred land, and we should not leave this, because in Hinduism, there's a concept that said we have a responsibility to our coming lives and our coming generations also. Only Hinduism has this evolved understanding. It says that, so it's not a right step if you go into the cycle of evolution. I tell the students this, but it was something that Swami taught. I was a professor for 10 years in in the Department of Medicine of Vedahi Medical College in Bangalore. Last year, I shifted to this Sai Ashram Super Speciality Hospital. I used to tell the students this, but it's based on Swami's essence. You have the boys sitting one side, you have the girls sitting on the other side. 250 students, too many. But so I should tell them, I said, listen, I wouldn't say that. I just point out, I'd say, you chaps, you want to make friends with them. So what do? You run after them. What do? They run further. You can spend your whole life, your whole tenure in Vedahi or your term running after them, you're still in ground zero. You know how you make friends with them? You improve your personal qualities. You develop sharafat, you develop integrity, you develop trust, you develop worthiness. You don't have to run after them. They'll come halfway in friendship. Then I emphasize this. I said, don't miss the point. There's a spiritual law operating. Please operate with these laws. Please work with these laws. This Swami has also said, he says, experiment with these laws. Test. He didn't use the word experiment. Swami said, test and know for yourself and then believe. He says, these are laws. There are many good things in life. Good health, good reputation, a good relationships, a good, well-being, or a good aura, or whatever. He says these are worth aspiring for. What's wrong with the modern world? They always run after them. Those things keep running further. A lifespan passes off. So Swami said, whatever is worthwhile in life, Don't run after it. Work towards deserving it. The laws of life, God's laws are so created that it will come to you. It will come to your feet, what you were looking for. Swami gave an example. He says, don't you want to give your children, it's the same equation. Don't you tell your children that you be good students or whatever, we'll get you this, we'll get you good shoes, we'll get you a racket or whatever. You want to do that. The Divine Mother also wants to do that. But she's not a destructive mother. She's not like an indulgent modern parent who actually harms his children. He wants to give you those things, but he wants you to make an effort to deserve. So Swami said, deserve and desire. He says, try to deserve good things. They will come to you unasked. He says, I will give them to you unasked. Swami said that. He says, so, it's a very different perspective, which a scientific mind could understand. There's a way of Swami would teach us how to live, how you should lead your life. And he says how, you should find fulfillment in your life. And another sign, he said, as more for my age, I'm 69 and a half. Let's say I rounded off to 70. He said, you can work on yourself. You can test yourself. You got to be authentic. He says, you must be at peace with yourself. Does a tree get bored? Does a pup get bored? Little cat get bored? Man's the only animal who gets bored. You must learn solitude. You must learn to like solitude. You must learn to be silent. You must learn to live in silence and be at peace with yourself. I'll be frank with you. I don't get bored. Everyone says it gets bored. I just don't get bored. I can spend the whole day by myself if I'm doing something. So Swami said we have to work on ourselves. We need to be at peace with the environment, be at peace with the beating of our heart, and learn to like solitude. And he said you carry that also, try to carry that solitude even in a complicated, noisy, complex marketplace. Then Swami was asked about this lifespan, Swami gave an example of Kasturi-ji, the great man. We had the privilege of listening to him many times. He was mature, so many mature people are told that time of death also. So Swami said Kasturi was to die much earlier as a youngish man. But because he spent his life in Puttaparthi, in that atmosphere, in that peace and quiet, his diseases reduced, his longevity shot up. He had a nice, long, perfect. Then Swami explained, somebody asked this question, then Swami explained that talking consumes an enormous amount of energy which science hasn't understood. Swami mentioned that. It is, you got to work on yourself, but you got to carry that prashanti with you. You got to carry that prashanti with you wherever you go, wherever you are, that orbit around you. And he says, then the effect is the same. You're at peace. Your heart rates, your breathing rates are low. Your mental activity is less. And your diseases reduce, your longevity rises. And he, about maintaining silence, I forgot to say one thing. Swami called this silence. He used this word SAI. He told the translator to use the word, spell it. This is a higher level of silence. One is peace and quiet. But he said, if that's a problem with modern man, by the way, a lot of patients have this problem and we tell them and they admit it. We're all the time talking in our minds. We're all the time asking questions, rattling. Even when we are silent, actually we're talking in our minds. We cannot understand, but God wants us to have a thoughtless mind. That means we think like a tribal. We think when it's required. There's something to be done, then again there's a straight line, a thoughtless mind. That and Swami said one of the causes of premature aging today is this internal chatter. He says it's too much of internal chatter. We are not at peace with ourselves. We've got to discipline ourselves. We've got to change our food habits also. If your food habits are stimulant, you've got to have that. And that ages us faster, reduces lifespan. So Swami said real silence is when we avoid unnecessary speaking. We got a television there right away. We haven't switched it on for about 7-8 years. The other day I wanted to see the time, but we are working on us. I haven't watched television for many years, maybe a decade. And I'm going to shift to Kolar to the hospital site. We're not going to have a television. So avoid these unnecessary stimulations also. And then change your diet. And then he said, if you recite chants in your mind, that's another way to have a thoughtless, quiet mind. He says, in that spiritual evolution is rapid, not in a talkative, noisy mind. We got to work on ourselves. He's merciful. He'll help us.